Welcome to Product Marketing Alliance. We're home to everything a product marketer needs to learn, share, and succeed in their role. The definitive product marketing course, Product Marketing Core, is the perfect platform for experienced product marketers to broaden their existing knowledge, as well as educate newcomers beginning with their product marketing journey. Our community. We're home to more than 10,000 product marketers across the world, and every single day, tons of product marketing specific conversations go down. The community hasn't just been an absolute wealth of knowledge and answers, it's the place for constant inspiration. With a PMA membership plan, everything a product marketeer could possibly need is all in there, all in one place. Whether you want to grab a template, learn about how to become more strategic from product marketeers who've mastered it, sit back and watch hundreds of hours of presentations from some of the world's most trusted brands, our packages have got it all and more. We really are, dare we say it, the one-stop shop.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Polner. I'm the Global Head of Product Marketing here for Uber Eats. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some lessons I've learned product marketing at Uber Eats and building the team from 0 to 1. Excited to get started. So just really quickly, I think a quick intro about myself. I have over 12 years in marketing, spent a lot of time in product growth, brand, have done both B2B and B2C. I think historically, there are some really interesting changes between B2B and B2C, and you know, I hope that I've learned a little bit about the both sides of what makes a great product marketer on the B2B side or the B2C side. Early in my career, I spent 4 years in ad tech, several startups from Series A to Series C. Then I went to a company called 5 Stars, which was a small business local commerce company. I was about the 35th employee there. I think it was the first product marketer hired. Ended up leaving around 350, so through a B and a C round. And then now, I was the first consumer PMM at Uber Eats. And now we have over a team of 14 people, 4 very crazy years in my time at Uber, but crazy but wonderful, so a bit of both. I think most importantly, I'm really passionate about teaching and helping others not make the same mistakes I've made. I didn't have as many mentors and support systems early in my career, so I had to struggle and learn a lot about what I was or wasn't supposed to be doing. So I'm really passionate about being able to give back and help the product market community and other young and talented marketers navigate some really complex challenges in their orgs and their careers. That's why I love doing this. So I'll jump right in. I like to start a presentation with a good meme. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity to talk about my career at Uber. My first day, for those who are aware, was actually January 30th, 2017, which is the Monday of Delete Uber. So for those who don't know, Delete Uber was a viral movement almost 4 years ago now, which was coincided with my first day at Uber. Really set the bar for, I think, the next 4 years. And it was a good benchmark for what I could expect. But now, how it's going. Uber Eats is now bigger than Uber's ride-hailing business. So for those who haven't used Uber Eats, we're the food delivery arm of Uber. We have the rides business, the mobility business, and then the delivery business, which is Uber Eats. And it has been a crazy couple of years, but tons of lessons, tons of things that we did right, and a lot of things that we did wrong growing the business overall. So, you know, I spoke to Josie and others in the field, and I was like, you know, what would be helpful to cover? And I was told, you know, make things actionable, make them as actionable as possible. So I picked 3 big things that I'll talk about learnings-wise. They're fairly broad. I hope these are insightful. I'm always happy to go deeper if there are specific questions, comments. Can kind of take the 101 class all the way up to a 501. So I hope that's helpful. But for now, today, the 3 topics I wanted to cover are research and insights, which is the most important thing, I think, of all product marketing, and where I'm super passionate. Highlight the role of research and growth and targeting, with tips on how to execute. You don't have to be Uber. You can be scrappy. You can be scaled. A lot of different ranges there. Then growth and messaging. I think that this is particularly relevant for startups. And how are you crafting your story? How are you thinking about growth? Like, growth and messaging should work together. So that's the whole second bucket. And then the last one, which I find still I get a lot of questions in, is, what are the product marketing fundamentals? What is the function? It looks different over here versus over here on B2C versus B2B. What do we do? I'll also talk a little about some hiring tips and what I look for in product marketers too. So jumping right on the first lesson, above all else, know thy users. And the first lesson, I think, is know thyself, but the second first lesson probably is know thy users. And this is super critical, and it's really important. I find it's the basis of any great product marketing, brand marketing campaign. Anything you do is you have to know your customers. So I start with 3 foundational C's questions: know your customer, define your competition, understand your category. And I'm fortunate to work with and talk with a lot of really great startups in the space, and I'm shocked at how few people do really know their customer, are aware of their competition, and understand their category. So I hope product marketers do know this, but I just want to reinforce these buckets. So in terms of knowing your customer, I think these are really 2 big pieces. The very first one is segments and drivers. Who's using a product and who's highly engaged? What do those customers love about your product? And what is driving their preference? If they prefer Uber Eats, if they prefer your app or service, why is that? And then barriers and blockers to trial. Who's not using your product? Why not? Are they not aware? Are they just don't think it's for them? What are the barriers and the reasons that's stopping them? When you have existing users, what's stopping those existing users from ordering or using your product even more? What is the barrier that's keeping them from being a medium active user to a high value active user? That's the whole piece of knowing your customer. Defining your competition. I think this is a super interesting question. At Eats, we're thinking about all of our competitors, and there are all these, DoorDash or Yelp was really big actually in food delivery 4 years ago. And we were thinking, it was with Eat24, I believe, is the delivery side of Yelp's business. And we were thinking, are we competing against them, or are we actually competing against people who are picking up the phone and calling and ordering? And that was one of the really important questions we actually defined early, which was, hey, we're actually competing against people picking up the phone and calling. So that shaped a lot of our marketing strategy. And then what's the consumer decision journey? Why are they picking one service over the other? What is that moment of truth before they decide to push the Uber Eats button, the DoorDash button, or any other button? So that's all about understanding your competition. And then finally, your category. I find that this is really important in terms of innovation. You don't want to be disrupted. You don't want to be flanked. And innovation usually comes from the side. It's never head on, where you're going, oh, food delivery is going this way. It's actually like food delivery is going this way. And then somebody comes up with an innovation that's totally out of left field. That's where you can become disrupted. It's rarely head on because you're aware of those. So know your category. What's growing in the future? Where will the industry be in 3 years, 5 years? What are early adopters doing? Early adopters, I find, are disproportionately impactful in both product usage and marketing usage. So understand what are they doing, and then where are they using their services, and where could your space be moving your category overall? So I like to think about segmentations, and I think on Eats we've done many different types of segmentations, but I think that I usually start with my research segmentation, thinking about, first, define what you're trying to solve for. You have to have a tight brief. You have to know where you want to end up before you're able to get there. So, start by defining what are you trying to solve for, and then take that framework into a segmentation, rather than just saying we're going to make a segmentation and figure out what we're doing when we see the data. So the question that, in this hypothetical example we took was, who's using our product today and who's not, but should be. And I think this is a really good way to start. So as I said, segmentations can range from very, very simple to very, very complex. They can be based on a number of different dimensions: demographics, attitudes, behaviors. Start with, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and move from there. So what we did on Eats, we did our first landscape study. This was, again, almost 4 years ago. And the very first thing we start with is defining that problem. Outline the problems you're trying to solve, define what success would be. So, again, we start with a brief here, but we say, this is the problem we're trying to solve. We want to understand who's using our product today and who could be using our product but isn't. So start with that problem and then identify what success would be. So success for us may have been understand, the market sizes of each of those buckets, and then be able to have actionable targeting advice and recommendations to how to convert people who weren't using the product into using the product. That's a brief to start. If you feel like you're not ready for this, you're like, I don't know what problem we're trying to solve, talk to users, talk to customers, give them a call, set up a quick focus group, jump on a Zoom, talk to a friend, anything. Qualitative research helps build these hypotheses. And I just am a huge fan of, the more customers the more in depth you can get here, the better to start. Second, draft a survey. Write a series of questions based on these learning objectives. If you're trying to understand this, write the questions to think backwards on what you're looking for in terms of understanding those core segmentations. Make sure to try and word the questions neutrally. There's some resources online that just share best practices around question wording that you can easily find. You're trying to avoid things like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how terrible do you think Uber Eats is? You're trying to just remove as much bias as possible in questions. It is important to recognize that conversion rate, the number of people going through your survey, will be dependent on how long that survey is. So just balance those things, like what is the true information you need versus, what is that extra question that may not make sense to ask until, maybe the very end, or maybe you can just cut it over altogether. Sounds obvious, but select a partner or tool. If you're an Uber or a larger company, work with a vendor. They're experts. They've done dozens of surveys, hundreds of surveys with companies. If you're just a scrappy startup like I've done many, many times, just use SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics. You can set up an audience. You can buy a list. There are a lot of great tools. Get Feedback, I think, is another one. So just find a tool or a partner that you can take that brief to. And then making sure you're asking questions that are going to answer your objective. So again, if you're thinking about segmenting based on, how often are people ordering food delivery, make sure you ask that question. So whatever it is, make sure that your service, your partner, your tool, your questions are all working towards that objective. Next, send the survey. Test your survey. Decide if you want to use an incentive. There are pros and cons. Same with a blinded or unblinded. If you say, this is from Uber Eats versus this is just from a third-party delivery company. Send the survey to your users, or if you have a pre-screened general panel, again, through buying a list of SurveyMonkey. Again, the pros and cons, but it's a way to increase your audience reach without just limiting to the people who use your product. And then one other piece of advice I would give here is, if possible, make sure you can match your user data, the survey responses, to the users. So you can usually do that through appending a variable at the end, or a tag to tie back that data through a survey link. Next, analyze. If you're fortunate to work with great data scientists or people who are much, much smarter than I am, use them and have them help build this segmenting your users based on that primary objective we talked about at the beginning. So if it's, again, category usage, you want to find where are the people using, who's using your product and why are they using it. Map this data across demographics, attitudes, behaviors, to get this full picture of the user segments that exist. After that, if you still have questions, use some qualitative research. Set up a few follow-up calls, phone calls, focus groups, just to understand a little bit more deeply the why. Why are you seeing this data? Why are suburban families not using your product? Why is that? So I like to sometimes do qual, quant, qual, which is a little bit more extensive, but it gets you really great data sets. And then finally, most importantly, product marketing is an extremely strategic function. So it's really important you take these insights and shape behavior. Where are you seeing opportunities? What's driving these high usage product decisions? Provide targeting and marketing recommendations to the CEO, chief product officer, head of marketing, whoever are the stakeholders, to say, hey, you've delivered your objectives. This is what you're trying to do and why. So again, a hypothetical example here, based on the brief of who's using our product and who could be using the product, you can see where you're over and under indexing. So again, making up some names, you have modern urban family or a young single urban professional, and then all these other segments. And you might say, hey, we have a lot of people who are in this modern urban family bucket, but all of a sudden, or a lot of people are in the modern urban family bucket are using delivery, but they're not using Uber Eats. So why is that? Start to ask those questions and figure out, get a profile of that user group. So you might end up with something like this, which is, they're ordering delivery regularly, and the key word here is they're fitting their busy schedules. So they like value, speed, and food quality. So those are the types of things that you can use in your messaging when you're trying to reach this audience. That they're looking for fast, they're busy, and this is the great food that you're offering them. So that's an example of a segmentation that has, one, started with a clear objective. We're trying to understand who's using the product and who isn't using the product but should be. You get a qualitative and quantitative perspective on who this user is, and then you have actionable ways to reach them through marketing and product to acquire them and fill in those gaps. Great. Second lesson, identify and break barriers to trial. I really love this one. So, I think about growth all the time. Growth is not just acquisition, it's engagement, it's retention. But again, it starts with a lot of user questions. The very first question I ask is, where are you expecting your acquisition to come from? Are you creating a category, or are you giving people a reason to switch from a competitor? Again, going back to those 3 C's, what are you competing against is a core question here. So if you're creating a category and you're growing the category, like we were on Eats, you're defining a new industry, you're early to market, you have a step change product. Eats had all of these. We were in a new market, we had a step change product, we fundamentally felt we were a better experience. We were competing against people picking up the phone and calling delivery, calling a local restaurant. So the types of the users were consumers who've never ordered food before, or restaurants that have never ordered food before. So you really have to educate them on what that is. In a switching strategy, this is primarily saying you're in a more mature or a highly penetrated market. Like, again, I can think of a video conferencing. So you have Zoom, you have Citrix, you have WebEx, you have all these Google Meet, you have all these different pieces. So you're trying to convince somebody they understand video conferencing, but they don't understand why you're better. So again, in this example, consumers are using Postmates or DoorDash or Grubhub, and you want to get them to switch. But again, video conferencing, I think, is a good example where people kind of get it, but what are the reasons why why you want them to switch? So whichever you're focusing on, growing a new category or getting people to switch, understand your why and your why not. So here, we'll take that delivery 1.0 user. Those are the people picking up the phone and calling delivery, local restaurants. So our why not? These are the things that we heard. We heard, one, delivery is unreliable. Broken forks, plastic bags. It shows up 50% of the time when I call the restaurant, 50% of the time it doesn't. Barrier 2, we actually don't know how it works. You're telling me I'm going to order an app, I'm going to push a button and get some food. Again, 4 years ago, this was really novel. Now it's much more mainstream. And then the third barrier we heard a little bit about was they're no good restaurants. They're only, pizza and Chinese food, or, the local sandwich shop. We don't have a lot of restaurant selection. So those were things that we heard as barriers. And we turned those why nots into our why. So all of a sudden, delivery is unreliable. You can get delivery wherever, whenever. If it's at the top of the Eiffel Tower, or if it's pizza in the park, we thought about that and we communicated a lot on making those why nots our whys. We're not sure how it works. Push a button, get food delivery in 30 minutes. We really hit that home. Push a button, get a ride. Push a button, get food delivery. It was a really easy way a mechanic to convert those why nots into whys. And then again, on the selection side, from just one restaurant, we actually have hundreds or thousands of local restaurants. And we also highlighted the breadth and depth of cuisine. It's not just pizza and Chinese food. You can also get sushi, you can get salad, you can get things that you didn't traditionally expect you could get through food delivery before. So as you can see here, these are just things that we played with on creative, on social 4 years ago, but we really want to highlight the breadth of things you could order. You could order ice cream at the Eiffel Tower. You could order picnics in Hyde Park or burritos at Bondi Beach. Again, these were all breaking the stereotype of food delivery. So we thought of our why not. We understood our user group. We understood our why not. We said, great, you don't think food delivery is reliable. You don't think there's selection. You can order pizza at the park. That's something that's a totally new way to think about the consumer experience. And then the last question I love to ask is, what is the ultimate expression of why you're different? So again, to Delivery 1.0 users, you pick up the phone, you order your local pizza or Chinese restaurant. To me, I think that McDonald's was actually something that Uber Eats delivered first and really changed our business trajectory. And I think that was a really wonderful expression of why are we different. And I say to startups or wherever you are in product marketing, think about what is the ultimate expression of why you're different and pursue that ruthlessly and relentlessly. And then third and final lesson, I always say this one, but you have to product marketing. And it's really wonderful to be a part of, an event and a conference like this, digitally or in person, where, we were last year, because you need to be raising awareness of product marketing. What a great role, what a great function it is. So I always say you have to product marketing. I get a lot of questions from people, how do I get a seat at this table? What is product marketing? How do we demonstrate the value that we have? So in startups or in companies, I always say, why aren't engineers just working directly with CRM? Why are you not just building emails and sending emails? And in some companies, you might say, well, that is what we do and we're okay with that. And that's okay. But really, you think as you grow and you scale, you add all these incremental cross-functional layers. You add engineering, you add designers, then you have designers and engineers. Who's going to work with that group? Oh, you have PMs. Then if PMs, designers, and engineers, who's going to be communicating with CRM? Is that going to be the PM? Well, now we add a PMM who's going to be another layer in here too. So regardless, when you're adding these stages, you need to find your unique and differentiated value proposition as a product marketing team, and you need to instill that in the organization. And you need to do the same internal marketing that you would do as a product marketer to the organization, to the CEO, the head of product, the head of marketing, the CMO, whoever it is. And I say 3 buckets of product marketing. I say research, position, launch. Research, product marketing deeply understands the user and we understand the product. We connect the two. We're shaping roadmaps through insights and marketing strategy. Second, positioning. Craft those narratives. Define your core positioning for the product. What makes you unique and what makes you special? Leverage the reasons to believe in the product proof points to tell wonderful, powerful stories. And then finally, launch. This is the one I find people get the most caught up on, because aren't there a lot of people doing go-to-market? And I can, certainly say that there are a lot of people who try and do the go-to-market approach. So I understand it's competitive, but we activate growth through product launches, engagement, marketing activations. I always say a product launch should be like a new car unveiling. You rip off the curtain, email, CRM, performance, all these things happen at once. And that, I think, is the bread and butter of a world-class product marketer. Most importantly, whatever your value proposition, if it's user focused, if it's growth, if it's product and narrative, brand, make sure that you're hiring people who reinforce your value proposition. So I've hired quite a lot of people. I've been really lucky at Uber to hire wonderful product marketers. A couple things to be aware of. Early stage, I think product marketers are generally categorized as athletes or generalists. I try not to over optimize too early, particularly when you don't know what's going to work. I talk to a lot of people, and it's 20 or 30 people startups, and sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm going to hire my second SEO hire. I was like, well, does SEO work? And they're like, sometimes. Like, maybe you shouldn't hire 2 SEO people before you know it does. So don't over optimize too early. I think that's really important. PMMs are wonderful, talented people who can do a lot of things. I think that's okay. It shouldn't be something we actively push back against, I think, in the right context. Second thing I would say is a tip: always have a PM on the interview loop. Great PMMs can also be PMs. I think this earns you trust and respect with product, which I think can sometimes be a challenge. So I highly recommend that. And then third, I've generally found a trade-off between PMMs who are a little bit more growthy or performance marketing-y, and those who are a little bit more brain creative. I think that's okay as well. Be clear on what orientation you're looking for and why this one versus that one, and just know what you're looking for. And then finally, I've hired a lot of people who don't have product marketing in their job title. That's fine. Performance, brand, customer support. I think there are world-class product marketers hidden in a lot of different functions. That's totally fine. I think if you're hiring somebody, try and find somebody who has a natural user empathy, a curiosity, and who can articulate the trade-offs in these decisions. If you're a talented, brand marketer or performance marketer, you want to break into product marketing, hone those skills of research and insights and how you can articulate those trade-offs. Bonus point, I love people who understand funnels. I find that that's generally a little bit more of a B2B skill than a consumer skill. I think if they understand the user, if they can articulate trade-offs, and if they understand a funnel, hire them or refer them to Uber Eats, where we are also actively hiring, because those are going to be wonderful PMMs too. I think that's all for me. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was insightful. Always a little difficult to do it over Zoom, but if people have questions or comments, or you found this entertaining or exciting, or you didn't find it valuable, I'm always super open to feedback. I think it's research positional, and we're always trying to get better too. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to shoot me an email. Anything I can do to help out. Hope this was valuable, and hope everybody's having a good day wherever you are. Thanks.